I'm Neil Maycock.
And I'm Greg DeBressac, and this is the Business of Media Tech in the wild at NAB 2026.
And we're delighted to be here with Jamie Duemo. One of the things we want to start doing, I'd like you to sort of give a bit of your career history, but I think it's a really interesting topic to dig into when giving what we're going to be talking about. So.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So I will say I am very happy that I made the decision, and this is the only thing I went to university for, so I would be useless if I went into any other industry, because it just worked out. I've had the opportunity to work many years on the customer side and many years on the vendor side, and so that allowed for, not only the fact of like learning from a customer side, the business and the challenges such they had. But when you're at a customer site, you're limited from a technology point of view, right? Because you only know what's there. Yeah. So to have it, to be able to on the vendor side, now you'll be able to meet global people and different ways of different customers doing things and different tech and such. So when I graduated university, went 5 hours up the road to Turner. And started there as a overnight master control operator for Brazil and Latin America International. I literally thought 2 a.m. that I made the wrong career choice. I was sitting there watching Snagglepuss in Portuguese. I'm like, what did I do? But kept going. Worked out well. So had shifted, and we'll get into this, but Turner at that time was going through a massive technology change, and they were really leading the industry on that piece. So it was able to go to Discovery after that. So Turner was the broadcast side, went to Discovery, and it was production operations side, and that was, my team used to fulfill for iTunes. So that was the beginning stages of iTunes and the pains, the Wild West on that piece. And then went started right. We went to ProBell. Yep. So broadcast automation, which was always kind of my love and passion, and a lot with asset management. Shifted after that, so went there. Where did I go after that? Was it? Then went to NBC.
Yep.
And set up. They were always pushing innovation, and they're concentrated on setting up their first streaming platforms. Right, we called it TVE back in the day. I don't know why we called it that, but we called it TVE. Went there after.
Well, everything had to have an I or an E if it was
If
it was
internet,
right?
It's always a vowel. Like you got to make sure you use those only those 5 letters in the alphabet. And that's after that I had this great idea. When
the lights literally came on. Great idea.
A great idea. That's when I shifted over to AWS.
Right.
And so started on that journey. AWS is really formally setting up a media entertainment vertical.
Yeah.
And it was one thing that was really cool about it is that if it wasn't for that, I don't know if I was smart enough at that time in my mind to get into AWS. And once I kind of got over that barrier, I'm like, oh no, this is cool. Let's go. So did AWS. Paramount stole me away from AWS. Help innovate some of their workloads, moving their stuff actually into AWS. Then I went back to AWS, and then finally landed to where I am now. So my husband and I started a little technology firm called Dynadue Technology, and what we do now is, as executives, but also hands-on abilities still, we're able to, you can literally throw us at anything. We just fill gaps so that customers can catch up and then go.
So guiding customers towards technology,
guiding
choices?
customers, demystifying it.
Okay.
That's a big one, right?
Yeah. Yep.
I find a lot of times that purchases go slower because it's so confusing and they're
There's
not
an
familiar
education
with
piece
it.
that needs to happen, isn't there?
Exactly. And then as well as help them on conceptuals. How do you get there? Sometimes help with the staff on level setting, right? Getting them to where they need to be, because we don't want to sit there forever. Like, we failed if we sat there forever.
Yeah.
So make sure they're enabled for that. And also do things like, broadcasters, we were always great with financial responsibility and that picture to it. So we help a lot on those modelings too. It's not our preferred work, but it is a critical part
Yeah.
of the business.
So what I think, given that, I think really interesting sort of mix in your career history, one of the things I'd like to sort of talk about is what have you seen how has it evolved? So Turner was an innovator, NBC was an innovator, but they were almost of the big technology transitions. Turner was around HD, I think, and then as you said, NBC was streaming, but also the move to software and cloud. I mean, how has, from your side, what have you seen in terms of what were the businesses trying to get out of their technology investment? Maybe HD was just a necessity. You had to go HD to be current. Has it changed, do you think?
So great question. So when it started, because that's the early part of my career, it was all about quality, right? So hence the HD portion of it, right? It was all about quality, and then also backwards compatibility for quality, because how long did the HD transition take for love of, right? Okay, so that was a big piece of it. And then as the years went on, it shifted more into, we need more space. Right, because we have more businesses to launch. We need more space, and that was a big thing originally at NBC. Was get to more commodity hardware, going more
so
from
reducing
software,
footprint.
Reducing footprint. What used to take them, God, what was the stat? 30 racks. They were able to condense that same footprint down to 5 racks. Now there's more power and cooling and things like that. But that was the big shift. So this is before virtualization.
So that was a real estate play as much as anything.
It was a real estate play.
And
100%.
channel in a box, literally collapsing a broadcast chain down into a server.
This massive graphics machine and video switcher, all that is kind of all placed into one. And that in itself allowed them to grow, because they could not grow because they didn't have the space.
And to the streaming point, there was more and more services. Is the proliferation of services at that point, I guess, where they needed the space?
It was that absolutely. So it was so the streaming thing was an experiment versus getting the real estate back so they can launch more channels. Right. But so how can we also kind of do a streaming thing at the same time, taking advantage of basically the footprint that was condensed down and such. And then because they were taking advantage of what they already had, low risk on trying to do streaming, because all right, well, if we only pay this much and you just take that out and it's not a problem, because you knew this streaming thing was going to work.
And then
I suppose at the time,
who knew it'd catch on, right?
Right.
Exactly.
And then I guess stepping over into the world of AWS, I'm really curious about how they looked at the sort of the business side and economics of what they were proposing. The value proposition of migrating all this stuff to the cloud.
Because there was a huge amount of investment at AWS during that period of time
in
building a full media services division with huge amount of new product development. They didn't.
They purchased Elemental. Like they were really trying to get into
and doing a lot of that.
And they hired anybody.
They really did. I mean, I got a job, so I mean, Can you spell M&E? You're right.
Yes. I remember those days.
Yes.
But and they did it in a way that perhaps someone else might have said, "We'll bring a whole bunch of partners in." No, they actually really chose to build in-house a capability that would allow them to really what they did, but to lead the industry in that direction.
So I mean, they started with a heavy concentration of partners. right?
Right.
And and naturally, so AWS is coming from more of an IT web server, that type of angle to it. So some of the earlier successes, was like from supply chain point of view, and that makes complete sense, right? Because they have the services. It's just all about calling it something different, putting the widgets together into a different solution and pushing that forward. And then you had where, like Brinton, right, with the Discovery, there was a lot of blood, but they started doing playout.
Yep.
Right, 24/7 playout of the channels and such. And that's when it really was pulling in partners. This is not just a web server streaming. This is not just storage and flipping some files and
it's not the same
bot
widgets.
service,
It's
right?
new
Right.
widgets.
That is actually something that could be done for just live video in itself, which is not an easy thing. And then over time, the product teams there, they did a really good job on listening. So things like being like, video packets need to keep going. It's not like IT where you can just renegotiate. Like having that appreciation on how to kind of fine tune the different things within underneath the hood with their routers and gateways and such like that to be able to actually do settings to prioritize different packets.
Yep.
So this has to be always up. This, if it drops once in a while, that's okay. So working with service teams with that and educating them on why, right? What is media? Why is it different than typical IT? Just
which was
data
probably
flows.
half the battle, to be honest.
It was
building a culture.
75% of the battle was because, mind you, M&E is still it's the second smallest vertical in AWS.
That's
Wow.
interesting.
So
wow,
to get their attention, no, like this is really important. Yeah, the next smallest, and it might have just flipped over, was games when I had left, right? So the biggest ones, oil and gas and consumables, insurance, financial, like those were the big volume. And we were the cute little scrappy kids with like a $14 billion revenue number on our head. Just a little guys. Just a little guys. Yeah, exactly.
And probably a curiosity as much as anything within AWS rather than possibly a serious contender.
Yeah, it is, and it's interesting. So when we would go in and I wouldn't say fight the battle, but let's just call that, right? We would go and fight the battle, but when we won that, there was two great advantages on it. Like number one, it optimized just our stuff, like when you look at Elemental and those type of things, but also for the partners. And because here's the thing, the more partners you can get onto a hyperscaler, you don't have to do that work. It's pull through. Like it's the most logical way to go and enable
the whole
them.
marketplace thing, right?
Exactly, exactly. And they did a lot. They did a lot of investment of credits and teaching and things like that.
Well, yeah, because you mentioned education earlier. I just want to jump in on that because I remember there was a lot of effort by AWS to help businesses understand the economics of moving to the cloud because, there was all this sort of, it costs too much to take the data out and all of this stuff. And then Discovery launches a whole load of playout channels, which is constantly streaming stuff out of the cloud. Well, how can that work?
Yeah, exactly. And it's always CapEx or OpEx, right?
Yeah.
So, the initial value statement, right, that AWS had used, and rightfully so, and it's still big, right, on the show floor today, is use as you need. Right, so instead of putting the entire infrastructure in for something you're using 18 days out of the year, right, burst or DR or whatever else. So that was kind of their first use case. But then it was, right, like, because of Discovery stuff, those constant workloads and teaching finance, customers, finance, and engineering teams and such, the engineering executives, how you actually model this out. Right, because it might look bad here, but are you a 5-year cycle or are you a 7-year cycle? Right, and then so that hurdle was fine. Like everyone got it, like as long as that TCO, as long as you get that, and then it becomes a conversation. Is your dollar more valuable now or? Right.
Where
Which way does that
makes value.
Right, exactly. then it still has gone back to, I think, one of the challenges, and Grant Nodine, NHL, he had mentioned this the other day on our panel, and we had talked about it as well. One of the challenges now is that tech is moving so fast, finance can't keep up with understanding how to math, basically.
Yeah,
Well,
okay.
that's a great segue into sort of talking about your engagements now, because it's how are businesses evaluating technology investment and ROI and all of that, and if the finance guys can't get up, you're not going to get your budget released. So it's quite a dilemma.
And the big question is the hardest part the tech, or is it the business?
It's
now?
the business. Tech is easy, business is hard. Always been the case. Always
Right.
been the case. Normally you still have to go through the
We should do a
cycles.
podcast on the business side of things.
All right.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's a good
Yeah.
one. That's a
Yeah,
good
let's
one.
do that.
I've heard of something. Let me. But
it's hard.
It's hard. Business is hard.
Right.
And ironically, it's usually business tech, like what they use, is usually the slowest in changing as well.
Right.
Yeah.
So you can go as fast as you want with tech, but if they can't figure out how to build,
Yeah.
it kind of doesn't matter.
That's the key point. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
It's still a capital tendency, right?
Yeah.
They like to have,
Yeah.
right, that kind of burn down. So that's still a challenge. So it's one of those things you get creative with, right? So when I go and talk to a customer, and then I'll say, okay, I'll get with their finance person and say, okay, tell me in your world what is OPEX and what is CAPEX, so I know the key words.
Yeah.
Because then you can do the key words and understand, like, okay, this is really potentially OPEX. If you word it this way,
It
I'm
could
just
be.
saying you
Yeah.
could do that.
It looks like
and,
CapEx, yeah.
Yeah.
And we used to do from an AWS side, because that still was a very hard thing when I was there. We worked out a strategy when it came to reserve instances. So, right, compute, you commit to 1 year, you get a lower cost and on demand. If you do 3 years, I think it was with the 3 year that it was allowed where it could be capitalized by the customer. So we tried
okay.
on some
Right.
things like that because technically it was dedicated to them.
Yep.
So it was.
A
And,
fixed
the-
asset.
and theoretically,
Exactly.
you could
That's right.
depreciate that, and
Yeah,
okay.
that's right. That's right. So,
Interesting.
yeah,
And
finance is hard.
how much do you get involved? You mentioned a little bit that you get involved with the people and the human resource side of the technology. I'm assuming in the operations side of running that. Is it? I'll ask you the same question. Is it the technology that's the hard part, or is it the people that's the hard part?
It's the people, right? And not because they're trying to be hard.
No.
Right, but it is because we aren't great with change. We never have been, right? And so
Culture
that's
change,
always.
any aspect of the business,
Yes.
change of culture
Yeah.
that's where
Yes.
you've got the inertia.
And it's the change factor is really the I'm going to call it's the fear. And it's not fear of losing job or fear or anything else. It's like fear. I would actually say more of it's fear that people are concerned they're not going to do a good job.
Yeah.
I think that's it. And if you remove that barrier,
Not being good enough.
When
Yeah.
I was at CBS, and I probably a story for another day, but I was changing everything. And it was able within my division to actually kind of create a startup within this older,
Yep.
it was right before Phil came in. Phil Weiser did a lot of changes and such, which helped me out a lot. But I remember I was getting some pushback on change. And I remember basically I kind of cycled most of my team through, even down to the coordinator, and basically talked to them and say, okay, we would have a discussion. All right, what do what's holding you back? It was almost like an Oprah moment. What's holding you back and everything else? And I said, okay, fine. I finally got to it. And I said, okay, what you're concerned about is that you have a mortgage to pay, you have babies to feed, and what happened if you don't do a good enough job? And they're like, yeah. I said, what if I took that off the table?
Yeah.
If I took that off the table, can we have a different discussion? And they're like, yeah. I'm like, all right, well, come on, we're going this way. And then we do things like lunch and learns, and I got things approved. Before at the CBS, they had tuition reimbursement, but nothing from a certification. I worked with HR to get that in play, and then a lot of time. One of the great little tricks I found. So Fridays, right? Summertime is usually like, half days.
Right.
Right.
Yep.
I've never experienced it, but supposedly that's the thing. Those half days. Well, one of the things that I realized is, well, if the business can run all summer long with people only working a half day on Friday, what if I never gave that half day back to the business? And so that would always be an educational 4 hours.
Got it.
Different topics, different partners I would bring in and stuff and kind of break things down. And one of the best achievements I had was my finance guy. He was great. I helped him along the way, but he ended up getting his AWS certification.
Wow.
And so now my architects, they always knew that whenever they created something, they had to go in front of him in the very early days, and he would be able to get to, okay, I see what you're doing with DynamoDB here on the reserve. Go ahead and put it on demand now. We should be good for 3 months. Let's come back and reevaluate it. And I was like,
A finance guy.
Finance guy.
Different
Yes.
conversation, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly.
And so I suppose that continuous education thing that you're referring to there, it's not something that an awful lot of businesses do by default.
No, and it's probably because they probably don't think they have the time.
Yeah.
So if you be creative with the time, what does it look like then?
But at the same time, where we as an industry are struggling with moving forward into the newer technologies, in large part probably because of the education gaps.
Yeah, and no, that's true. And it's like those things are just thinking outside the box. A problem can always be solved.
Yeah.
So what's the creative ways to doing it, right?
Yep.
We were talking the other day about like risk aversion, right? And I know like when I started in the industry, customers not buying things and such, not changing, was because it was the old broadcast way. You bought something, you put it in, you turned it on, you backed away. And it was great gravity for a vendor, right? Because then it's like, no, they're
100%.
growing. And they're like, oh, just give me another one of those things. I'm going to put that there, turn it on, and kind of walk away. And it was the aversion from the quality and the 5 nines and all the other types.
Heaven forbid we might have to turn it off.
Right,
Yeah.
exactly. I blame BBC on this one. Only because they set the formidable
BBC. Yeah.
aspect of quality, right? When
Your whole nationality.
Answerable to the UK. I get
That's
it.
right. That's right. And then, okay, so I might not make too many friends older than me, but my colleagues younger than me will appreciate on this one. Then we moved into a period of time where there was guys and girls, primarily guys, who were close to retirement and they didn't want to touch a thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
And that was a good 8 to 10 years. And we're like, can these people hurry up and retire?
Yeah.
Because they're blocking everything.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right? They're not growing younger talent to replace them. They don't want to rock the boat. And also projects are a lot of work.
Yeah.
Right? And so
And risk, work,
and
risk.
all
and-
of that,
yeah,
right? And
Yeah.
they don't want to be on the phone in the middle of the night anymore. They did that 20 years ago when they were younger.
And do I want to have to go and learn all of this
Exactly.
to build up the knowledge I've already got?
Exactly, because I'm going to retire anyway. I'm not going to do this anymore.
Yeah.
Right? So it moved to that. And now I think we're in a more decoupled, to tie back to what we were talking about, which is finance, lack of knowledge. Not lack of knowledge, but understanding. No one's taking the time.
Yeah.
Right, to say, here are the reasons whys, and here are some of the benefits, and you can see this model here, this model here, this model here. Like, no one's doing that, so education. And then it's also, to your point, right, the education of the teams, because technology is moving so fast. So it's like, I don't even know where, so it's not a fear like of not being able to learn, it's a fear like, where do I start?
Yeah.
And that's the challenge.
Or where do we start as an organization?
Yeah, exactly.
Wow. It's great. I'm very conscious of time and don't want to take too much of your time. So.
Oh, I'm billing you. All right, billing you? No, okay.
What?
Well,
Oh, hey.
one last question from me.
It is business.
Yeah, exactly right. One last question from me.
Okay.
I've been asking this to a few of our guests.
Uh-oh.
If you can put yourself 2 years hence from now,
Yeah.
3 years hence from now, what's changed, not in the technology itself, but what's changed in the businesses that you're working with? What's changed in the way that they're acting? What's changed in the way they're organised?
Yep.
What are the challenges that they're facing that are different than now?
How much time do we have? I want to give a two-pronged
Go.
answer. Okay.
Go.
So first off is one of the things, and it's great to see, and customers asking, hey, help us on this, is that number one, they're breaking down silos. They're like, this is ridiculous. You know, they'll talk to, you do this, I do, well, why? And I'm like, oh, you want to do that, and then I'll do this? Like, that is really starting to happen.
Nice.
Right? It does end up cost savings.
It's been a classic problem for years, right?
Yes, the walls.
Yeah.
And now there's just like a group of people like, all right, this is stupid. Let's not do this, right? And they are asking the questions on how to reinvest in staff. Because there was this, let's go 2017, like in that realm where technology is changing fast. AWS is really out there from an M&E point of view. And it'd be like, oh, well, you know, teams are disposable. We'll just hire better new talent and everything else. I think two things happen. I think the talent has had time to learn on it, but they also realize they can't pay the same as an AWS, right? So teams aren't disposable.
Yeah.
But I think they also learn and appreciate, like, we have such domain experts, let's reinvest. So there's that piece of it that I think 2-3 years from now, that I think everyone, I'm hoping anyway, right?
Yeah.
You know, I'm
From
always
a staff
optimistic.
retention point of view.
It's going to go, right, exactly. And then I think the second thing, we were talking about this last night. I think the second thing that's interesting is like it's always about like what's the next thing? What's going to be the next disruptor? You know, you can say on tech, but it's always business, right? What's the next? And I am believing, now we're in Vegas, so we can put a bet on this. I am believing right now that the actual next best disruption won't have any press. So I've learned to hate two letters in the alphabet right now, and it's called A and I, because it's just, you know.
We're refusing to say it.
I just literally cannot stand it. I can't, the bolt-ons, and look, we do this, and I'm like, yeah, but I'm hanging a picture. I need a hammer, not a screwdriver. Oh, that comes out in 9 months. I'm like, well, this doesn't help me now, right? But the amount, when you especially get into agentic AI and a few other things, once it actually gets integrated truly into solutions from a value add, teams are going to, those domain experts are still going to be pushing buttons. There are going to be different buttons, and they're going to be able to work more efficiently, probably even cut their hours down. So they're going to be able to do more and less, right? Have that efficiency. And then I think you'll find that now it's going to be, well, how do we grow our business? Maybe there'll be like that economics to buy new solutions come in. So it's going to be one of those things that, if done right, it's never going to get any press.
There was a great phrase that Devon Croft, I've forgotten who said it now, but human amplification. In terms of
which is a concept, isn't it?
That's it, you allowing people to do more, and it's that domain expertise, because at the end of the day, you know, we work in heavily artistic industry, and whether it's on the technology side or the artistic side, that domain expertise is still going to be needed, and those people are going to be able to do more.
And do more, because like Luke, we've been doing more for a long time. It's like, okay, this group goes away, you have this and then you have this responsibility, but it's actually going to be doing way more with the same or less amount of time. And when you do it with less amount of time, then you have room for growth.
Absolutely.
So so I think the biggest next thing that comes, we'll have no press.
So we're going to book you now to come back in 2 years.
Yes.
All right.
So we can
Well
just
done.
sort of look back at the podcast and say,
What's the wager? Are we putting a wager down?
Oh, absolutely.
We go down to the table shortly.
Well, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you. This is
Really, really interesting discussion, actually.
Thank you, Jamie.
Thank you.
Cheers.